Hello, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Brewer, and today I'm going to be walking you through where I'm currently at with the iterative process with my design proposal for Chinatown. So I really wanted to dive into the Chinese culture first and foremost, and to really understand the culture and community that exists there and their ideals, and that it's really important to recognize the Chinese society and their historical past within Los Angeles. And so my research really dives into implementing these philosophies within the Chinese culture of form and function to provide a space that's reflective of harmony and balance. And so there's a lot of history that exists within this area. And so I want to understand what it means to build a community and to come together. And what's critically missing in this area is a community hub to really celebrate the culture, the history, and the community aspects within the area. So by creating this built environment, a connection of local can be established. Harmony and balance are strong Chinese ideals present within the design of the cultural hub, where noise has a very large impact on the harmony within interior and exterior spaces. Early on in the design process, it was important to analyze important drivers to the design and how people really approach the building and how these sound and noises are taken into consideration in terms of the private and public spaces. Also, it was important to analyze how people approach the site and how they would engage with the surrounding area. Another study that was important was the examination of the climate and the sun pattern. This is really important and critical in the design of the massing itself in terms of solid versus void and what areas can get a lot of sun, but also wanting to recognize the existing vegetation that exists within the area that's recognizable and reflective of the Chinese culture. In terms of site context, this was important to see what's really around the site. We are directly located against the Chinatown Central Plaza, and the site sits parallel to the crosswalk directly to the Chinatown Central Plaza. So it's really connected to the community, and so the whole goal for this hub is to pull people in and connect them. It's also important to recognize that a lot of the buildings within the area are historical in their context. They also follow a lot of the Chinese forms and functions that are historical to the culture itself, and those are something that should definitely be implemented within the new design of the site. Taking a look at the programmatic floor plan for level 1, it was important to separate the public and private spaces. And a large factor to that is through the use of material. And so it was chosen early on that wood and brick were going to be materials used within this project, not only for the juxtaposition of the materiality themselves, but also for the qualities that they provide in terms of sound and acoustics. I'm proposing a reflection pond and a communal garden as you immediately enter the site as a threshold to remind yourself to be harmonious while you're entering this space and to provide calmness while you enter the community hub. Within the first floor, there is a double height theater, a coffee and tea garden, and a library and technology center. All of these spaces are placed strategically in reference to noise proximity and also private versus public spaces. In the level 2 programmatic floor plan, again, the levels that we saw, the spaces that we saw on level 1 do carry up to this level in terms of the private and public spaces and the materials that are used. So the meditation garden is something to maintain that calmness, the harmony, and the balance that exists. And the wellness is meant to provide. Once you enter the community center, you're engaged with the lobby, and there are numerous spaces that are strategically placed in reference to the private and public spaces, as well as the materials that are used for them. When looking at the 3D program, we can begin to see the separation of private versus public spaces and the importance of providing areas for the reflection of harmony and balance. It was important to decide early on where the public and private spaces were going to go relative to the noise that exists within this area. In this corner wedged between these two existing buildings, it is a quieter region. Originally, I did have private spaces located over here, but it was realized early on that it's not as efficient to have these located next to the street, but to be tucked away in a space where you can truly reflect in peace and solitude. In terms of materiality, there were two palettes that are intended to be used within the design of this cultural hub. The palettes are reflected in historical Chinese design, and it's reflective of the programmatic uses to distinguish the separation of spaces through noise. The meditative and quiet areas will have calm tones of greens and browns, whereas the lively, high-traffic public areas, such as the theater, will have a brighter palette of reds. The juxtaposition of brick and wood deploy a separation of public versus private space, while emulating the Chinese traditional materials of the past. These materials were chosen for their effects on sound within interior and exterior spaces, where brick allows for the blockage of sound meant for private and public spaces, whereas wood amplifies and absorbs noise meant for the communal areas. Through the use of these materials and the palettes, the execution of public and private spaces can be established while also alluding to the premise of harmony and balance. Thank you.